Hello, YouTube. How's everybody doing this evening? How's the Wired fam this evening? Hope everybody's doing well. We are getting ready to begin another Wednesday night live, guys. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great live. Got a lot of good things to talk about. Fall is coming. Fall is quickly approaching, and I am ready. Okay, these hot days. I think we've got this last little bit of hot weather that's supposed to be here this week, and then it's going to cool off again next week. Fall is in the air. I was driving down the road today, and I'm starting to see leaves fall. I'm starting to see some leaves turn colors. I'm starting to see, I was driving down the road. It had a lot of trees over top of it, and there was just leaves blowing across the road. And I thought, oh, yeah, fall is coming. I'm looking forward to it. Let's go. So, really excited about fall. Really excited about fall crappie fishing, okay? Fall crappie fishing is going to be a blast. Okay, this year should be really good. A lot of fish in East Tennessee in that 10 to 13 inch class, if you will, or age group. A lot of 10 to 13 inch fish in the lakes, and it should be a good time. It should be a lot of fun. I've got a lot of guide trips lined up, and it's going to be a blast. So can't wait to get some people out there on the water. I can't wait to get out on the water. And for those that are in the East Tennessee area or any surrounding area that are interested in fishing the East Tennessee Crappie Tournament Trail, the East Tennessee Crappie Tournament Trail is going to start back up in September. So September, East Tennessee Crappie Tournament Trail starts back up. Why I have the hiccups, I don't know, but I do. All right, probably the Mountain Dew. We went back to the Mountain Dews this week because we're trying to stay awake for the live. Because I had slept a whole lot in the last couple of nights, okay? Because we got a sick baby at the house. And you guys know when you have a sick baby, you don't get a whole lot of sleep. All right? So, going to try to get through it tonight. Got a lot to talk about. A lot of cool stuff. My wife, she said, I'll scare you. Hold on. Lots of laughs. That's funny. She probably will, too. She'll come down here and try to scare me. So, all right. Don't forget, guys, when you get on tonight, drop me a hello. Let me know where you're from. Maybe tell me your home lake. I'd like to see what kind of lakes you guys fish, okay? I'd like to know where we're reaching to, kind of what areas you guys fish, what kind of lakes you guys fish. Are they reservoirs? Are they man-made? Are they natural lakes? That sort of thing. Are you fishing rivers? What are you guys fishing? That helps me, believe it or not, as we go through kind of our progressions and our talk tonight. That kind of helps me with, understanding geologically kind of where you guys are and what kind of to talk about so that you guys are successful in your area and your lake. A lot of this YouTube stuff, you kind of have to be careful to take some of it with a grain of salt, because if you live in Florida and you're fishing Okeechobee for crappie, and I am in Wisconsin fishing rivers and lakes in Wisconsin, or in East Tennessee for that matter, my techniques aren't going to be your techniques. And the way I catch fish isn't going to necessarily be the way you're going to catch fish. And the patterns of the fish aren't necessarily going to be the same in your area as they are in mine. So, again, take things with a grain of salt. Ask questions, okay? That's what this live is for. It's for you guys to ask questions. Now, I can talk about Okeechobee. I can talk about those grassy lily pad lakes, and we can have those conversations about where fish go and what they do. I'm perfectly cool with that. I fish Reelfoot. Reelfoot in East Tennessee is a lot like Okeechobee. A lot of cypress, a lot of lily pads, grasses, shallow body of water. Not very deep. I think the deepest part of Reelfoot's like 13 foot, and that's not very prevalent across the lake. But, we can have those conversations about deep, clear reservoirs, about rivers, about, shallow bays and deep creeks and, all this different stuff we can have conversations about. But you guys have to ask. You guys, if you have any questions, ask them. Okay, that's what this is for. It's what this live is for. It's for you guys to ask questions and get some answers. And hopefully it will help you in your crappie fishing. You'll become a better crappie fisherman. That's what this is about. Okay, so make sure you drop me a hello. Let me know where you're from when you get on. James Williams, what's going on from Saudi Daisy? Scott Pace, How's it going, Wired fam? Doing all right, except for some sickness, but we're getting through that. Harrison, hey, Matt from Oklahoma. Hope your family is doing great. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Prayers for Little Wired, because Little Wired is not feeling all that great, but he's doing better today. So yesterday, I think, was his bad day, and then today he's feeling pretty good. I mean, he's upstairs running around being a heckin' is what he's being. Mama went to a class. She had a class earlier. She was going to her class, and then she came home. I was like, "Get it, just get it, just get it. It's being a terror. Get it." She's like, "Welcome to my world." I'm like, "Boy, he's been crazy since you left." I mean, I I think what she did is she gave him chocolate and Coke before I got home, and she juiced him up because he was like off the walls throwing stuff. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. I was like, oh my gosh. He was off the walls, boys. I tell you, it was pretty funny. Russell Odom, Whitewire Hooks, what's going on? Slab Happy Lures, what's going on? Hey, Matt from Lightwire Hooks, hello to you too. Hunter, I live in the neighborhood by Ish Creek. I know I need to go fishing if I see you go by my house. There you go, Hunter. Well, if I go by your house and you see me, come outside and start waving, say hello. Um, or why don't you just come put the boat in and we'll go fishing together, right? Either one, whatever you want to do. But yes, anytime you get to go fishing, you need to go fishing. That's for sure. You can't catch fish from the couch, my friend. Unfortunately, we can try, but we can't do it. Virgil, unless we put a couch on the front of the boat, that would be it. That would be. Hmm. I think mine's wide enough. You could put a love seat on it. That would work. That would work. That would be good. Put a love seat on the front of the boat. Just chill, catch fish. Hmm. Who'd go on that guide trip? You can sit right there on the love seat, relax, take a load off, and just catch crappie. It'd have to be leather though, because boy, it'd get stinking if it's cloth. Hmm. Fish jump in the boat, start flipping around. Yeah, we might we need to think about that a little bit. But I think we're on to something. Jimmy Pratt, hello, what's going on? Slab Happy Lures, I'm ready. Me too. Tom A from Pennsylvania, hello, Matt. Thanks, Mr. Curtis Hobbs. Todd Pell from Talbot, Tennessee. Paul Gwynn, good evening from Chattanooga. What's going on, Paul? Terry Gear, hello, Wired from Middle Tennessee. What's going on? Joshua from Kentucky. I fish rivers and farm ponds. That's what I'm talking about. We've got a pond on our hunting property that literally is slum full of bluegill. And when I say bluegill, I mean 10, 12-inch bluegill and just absolutely full of bass. I mean, every cast. It's just ridiculous how many fish is in it. But as a matter of fact, my partner had them come out and shock the pond not too long ago. And I think Mr. Jimmy knows the pond I'm talking about. But they shocked the pond not too long ago, and he actually recommended that we take like 100 bass out of it because there were so many in it, and then crossbreed them with some other fish to get bigger fish and this, that, and the other. Take 100 out, put 50 back in, or something like that, or maybe he said 200 out and 50 back in. I don't remember, but it was a lot. It's like you need to take fish out of this thing. It's too many, but it is fun. It's a blast. I mean, we take the kids down there, let them fish. They love it. Nathan Wood from Wabash, Indiana. What's going on, my friend? Donathan Brown, hello from the North City. Derek, good evening, Matt from Lightwire Hooks. Good evening, Derek. Home lakes are Blackshear, Oconee, Middle Georgia mainly. I love Blackshear. Blackshear's got some big fish in it. Let me tell you, if you hadn't fished Blackshear's a sleeper lake. Blackshear is a sleeper lake. I'm here to tell you. There's some big crappie in Blackshear. I've caught them, and I would love to go back down there and fish again. Because actually, when I went down there, I had my very first boat. I didn't even have electronics. Okay, and we caught some studs. All right, I mean some stud fish. I would love to go back down there with a live scope on front of my boat. That would be amazing. Joshua, what's going on? Very good question. What is your favorite fall crappie plastic? All right, great question. So, I guess I'll say this. It depends on my technique. It depends on what I'm doing. Okay. If I'm fishing brush, I like something that's a little more subtle. I like something that has a straight tail or a split tail or something, a minnow tail, something that's a little subtle. Okay. But once those fish start to transition and those fish are kind of in that transition area and there's a lot of fish out in open water, because once those temperatures start to drop, a lot of those fish right now, okay, those fish are stacked up on brush. They're stacked up on structure. Now, you can still find some fish in open water, so don't shoot me down when I'm preaching good. You can still find, especially on specific lakes, you can find fish in open water. But the brush piles, the structure fish are absolutely loaded. Okay, you can pull up on a pile, there's 10, 20, 30 fish on it. You can pull up on a dock, there's 10, 20, 30 fish on it. You know, they're really stacked up right now, these summer months. And you can, you can find a lot of fish on structure. As fall progresses and as the water temperatures start to drop, you're going to find that those fish start to kind of pull off the brush piles. They're going to scatter a little bit. Now, everybody talks about that fall transition, okay? And everybody talks about those fish are going to transition a long way, and they're going to follow this creek, and they're going to follow that creek, and they are, okay? Now, hear me out. Again, don't shoot me down when I'm preaching good. Those fish are not going to transition that far on specific bodies of water, okay? On certain bodies of water, those fish are already shallower than you may think. Take Tellico Lake, for instance, okay? Tellico Lake has a thermocline set up on the biggest majority of the lake. Now, as you move down the lake, the thermocline begins to drop because it gets deeper. The lake gets deeper, so the thermocline kind of drops. But in the area of the lake that's most productive for crappie fishing, okay, is what I'm going to talk about right now. In that area, the thermocline's not more than about 16 to 18 foot deep at most. So a lot of those fish you're finding stacked up right above that thermocline in that 14 to 16 foot of water. There is a ton of fish in that 14 to 16 foot range. And well, I'll take it back. The last time I was there, it was even shallower. The thermocline was at 14 and you were catching fish at a 10 to 12. So, you know, those fish on certain bodies of water in certain areas, especially those lakes that set up a thermocline, may potentially be shallower than you think they are. Okay. They're not necessarily going to be out there in 35 foot of water, 40 foot of water, and transition a mile and a half up a creek to start feeding for their fall feed. Those fish may just come off a brush pile. They may move 200 yards over that way, and they may feed on shad or whatever it is you have in your lake that they feed on. It may be threadfin, it may be, whatever. But they're not going to move that far on certain bodies of water. Now, some bodies of water, they may move further than that. And in instances like we're talking about, they could move a mile. Who knows? But you typically will find fish they call it transition. I hate using that word because when you use the word transition, people think that they're transitioning a long ways. People think, all right, fish were out there. Now they're going to be out there or in there. And that's not necessarily true, okay? That's not necessarily the case. The case may be you just need to follow the bait. I mean, if you were catching fish in the summer right here on this brush pile and it was on the edge of a creek channel in the mouth of a cove, okay, in the mouth of a creek next to a flat where they would feed for their summer feed, because a lot of times those fish in the summer are going to pull up at night. They're going to pull up late in the day. That's why everybody tells me, let's go fishing in the morning. And I said, well, let's go fishing in the evening. Because a lot of times in the summer, that evening bite is better because those fish move up and they move up on the flats in the main lake flats, mouths of the creeks. If there's flats right around the mouth of a creek, those are the areas that they generally move to feed in the summer. Okay, so if they're there and they're in that area, it may be that they just move right up on that flat, find brush on that flat, and they stay on that flat, okay, in the fall. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to run 1.5 miles up a creek. All right. Now, some fish will. Okay. But if there's bait, there will be fish. It's that simple, guys. If you know, fish need bait fish to survive. They need food to survive. Okay. Um, they need cover and they need food. That's what crappie need: cover and food. Cover and food. You find cover and food, you're going to find crappie. That's simple. So don't necessarily think that transition is going to be way over here. All right. Again, they may be sitting on the edge of a creek channel or a drop or a ledge right now in the summer. They're sitting on a ledge next to deep water, and they may move up on that 12-foot flat or that 14-foot flat to feed at night. Well, they may just decide, hey, we're going to come right up here. We're not going to go back over there on that drop anymore. We're going to stay away from that. That's done. We're done with that. The water temperatures are dropping. We're ready to rock and roll. And they may stay right up there on that 12-foot flat and find them a brush pile and sit right there on that flat in that brush. Okay. So again, don't think that fall transition means you're just going to run forever and a day away from where you were fishing in the summer, because that's not necessarily true. Again, when those fish start to kind of pull off the brush piles, they start to kind of get out in that open water and they kind of start dispersing a little bit more. Trolling is a great method. You know, you can long line troll, you can catch a lot of fish. That's when I would move back to the bait question. That's when I would move to some kind of action tail. Okay, a curly tail, a paddle tail, you know, something with some action to it. There's a lot of great baits out there on the market, guys. Okay. Curly tails. You've got Southern Pro hot grubs. You've got Mr. Twisters. You've got slab curlies. I mean, you got several different brands of baits that you can. Cabela's has a brand. Bass Pro has a brand of curly tails. Paddle tail baits. You've got some really great paddle tail baits out there. You got Charlie Brewer sliders. You got a blue million of those. I mean, just about anybody, you know, makes a swim bait paddle tail anymore. But, you know, something 2 to 2.5 inches is where I try to stay. 1.75 to 2.5, anywhere in that range is what I like to use, especially for crappie. And then your same colors. I mean, match, contrast the color of your water. Okay. So if you got real clear water, you want to stick with something, you know, kind of natural, with a natural color to it. Silvers, blacks, browns, you know, just any kind of natural forage type color. Any kind of dark water or dingy water, you know, your black and chartreuse, your blue and chartreuse, orange and chartreuse, pink and chartreuse, purple and chartreuse, you know, anything with some bright color to it is great for those type of situations where you're fishing in dingy water. Okay. But that's kind of where I go to with plastics. If I'm casting brush or I'm casting the fish in open water, or, you know, I'm just single pole fishing, then I like something with just a subtle tail, something with a straight tail or a split tail or a minnow tail or something that is just going to give a little bit of action, but not overwhelming. But then if I'm trolling and I'm trying to get that reaction strike from fish, then I'll go with that curly tail or paddle tail. Okay. Scott Pace from Alabama, Lake Gunnersville. Man, I'm going to get to Lake Gunnersville. I can't wait to fish. I want to fish that lake so bad. All right, Joel Nash. What's up, Matt and everyone? Hope everyone is doing great. Yes, sir. Hope you're doing great as well, Joel. Big Kid from Missouri. What's going on? Oh, yeah, he hasn't even napped today. Yes, I know, and he's still wide open. I mean, absolutely wide open. All right, Michael Upchurch, hello from Toledo, Ohio, is watching. What's going on? Thank you for watching, my friend. Herb, hi, Matt. Haverday, Grace, Maryland. Did I say that right? Haverday, Grace, Maryland? I hadn't heard of that one. That's a new one. The Hungry Fisherman, hello from Northeast Missouri. First time on your live. Well, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions or you have any comments or anything, feel free. Drop them. Let us know. Love to answer questions. That's, again, what this is for. I'll take you up on that, Matt. I'd like to meet you. Lots of laughs. Just picked up a Mint 96 Ranger 361V. I love that boat. Don't tell me that. So I'm relearning crappie fishing. So much fun. Yeah, if you see me, Hunter, holler at me. Stop me. Come run me down, something. I'd be happy to meet you, my friend. Rodney from North Louisiana. You're the best. Thank you. I appreciate that. And you are as well. Hey, everyone. Steve from Rock Springs, Georgia. Seen older Little Wired knocking home runs. Yes, he was knocking home runs. So, Brantley, those that don't know, I coach Brantley's Little League team. We're in our fall ball season right now, and he has had a good year. He's had a good season so far. We've played 3 games, and let's see, 3 or 4. I think we've played 3. 3 or 4. I don't remember. Anyway, we have a really good team. Okay, have a really good team this year. Last game we won 22-0, and Brantley had 2 double plays, a home run, I think 2 triples and a double, and I think he was responsible for about, I think it was 8 of our outs. He plays second base. He's a little second baseman, so he's a pretty good little ball player. He told me the other day, he said, if I could hunt, fish, and play baseball, I don't want to do anything else. He said, I just want to hunt, fish, and play baseball. I was like, okay, whatever. You can do that for now. And who knows? Maybe you can do that the rest of your life. I don't know. I mean, maybe you can. We'll see. I mean, he's quite the little outdoorsman. You guys have seen Brantley on here a million times, but he's a pretty good little baseball player for sure. If you hadn't seen, or you want to see him play, I mean, I've got stuff all over my Facebook. If you guys hadn't seen my personal Facebook, here's all kinds of stuff. Him playing ball. So he's a good hitter. He's a good fielder, and I'm proud of him. He's, it's none of it is me. It's all him. I mean, he comes down here. That's why this net right here, when I don't have boats in here, every night he's hitting this net, and he's throwing balls and catching balls. And there's another net right on the other side of that boat over yonder, a hitting net that he hits into. And he's down here every night he can. He's down here for hours at a time, just throwing balls and hitting balls. So it's really cool to see, and it's really cool to watch him grow and to help him grow. And it's like, you guys in crappie fishing, and my followers and the people that watch this, I love the comments, and I love you guys sending stuff and saying, hey, I tried what you said. It worked. I caught a ton of fish. Thank you. It was a great day. Anytime you have stories like that, I love to hear them. You can email them to me. info@wiredforcrappie.com is our email. You can get on the website. There's a comment thing on the website. You can hit that, and they'll email to me. Our YouTube, you can comment on here. You can comment on the Facebook page. You can comment anywhere. I just love to see that stuff from you guys. Success stories, if you will. And yeah, he's but going back, he's pretty proud of him. He's a pretty good little ball player. Eric Lynn, running late here from KC. What's going on, Eric? Matt, pretend tomorrow you are transported to a stained reservoir in, let's say, Texas. You've never been in. How do you determine what depth the crappie are holding in no forward-facing sonar? All right, very good question. I love it. Thank you very much. So, I'm transported. Zoom, flown in. Here's your boat. Here's your lake. Go catch crappie. Okay. First thing I would do is I would look at my water temp. Well, I'm going to assume I don't have forward-facing sonar, but I have depth finders, right? So, do I have down imaging and side imaging? I'm assuming I do. All right. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see what the temperature is, the water temperature. Okay. And if I didn't have, let me be honest with you, if I didn't have a transducer that showed me what the temperature was, by golly, I'd carry one of those floating duck thermometers that you put in your pool. I mean, I'd carry something to figure out what the water temp is, what the surface temp is, because I want to know. I mean, that dictates a lot. Okay. So first I'm going to figure out what my water temp is. Okay. If my water temp is 83, which in Texas it probably would be, right now, or maybe even higher than that, maybe 89, 86, 89. Who knows? If anybody on here from Texas, what's y'all water temp right now? I'd say it's probably up there in the high 80s. But first, I would figure out what my water temp is. Second, I would start looking for if my water temp was that high. Very first thing I would do is start looking for structure. I want to find shade. I want to find cooler water. Okay, so if this lake, let me see, transported to a reservoir. So there, if it's a reservoir, there's got to be a dam, right? There's got to be flow. There's got to be intake and outtake. Um, so probably going to look on the north end of the lake. I'm assuming that's where the intake is. There should be cooler water on the north end. Um, sometimes that doesn't play true. Texas, I don't know. It might not play true in Texas. May need to head towards the deeper side of the lake. But I'm gonna figure out kind of where that cooler water is, and I'm gonna think to myself, where can I go find cooler water? Well, one place I know I can find cooler water, okay, is docks. I know there's shade under docks. So the next thing I do on a new lake is visible structure. Okay, I've got to locate fish to figure out what kind of fish are in the lake. All right, so I'm looking for visible structure. Is there black crappie? Is there white crappie? Is it predominantly blacks? Is it predominantly whites? That's going to dictate a lot. Okay. So if I go to, let's say I go start fishing docks and I don't catch any fish and all the docks are in shallow water and I'm not catching anything. Well, is there marinas? Okay. A lot of times marinas are larger. You can find fish under the marinas and there'll be cooler water there as well because it's shaded most of the day, right? There's always shade on a marina or on a dock. So I'll start looking at that visible structure first. Then I'm going to transition into, can I find brush piles? So can I find brush piles with my side imaging or my down imaging or a regular sonar, whatever it is? And if I can find those brush piles, can I mark those brush piles with a buoy and cast to those brush piles? Now, it's kind of a fan casting pattern, right? So you're throwing a jig, and generally speaking, when I'm fishing, before a forward-facing sonar, I'm throwing a 16th ounce jig most of the time because a 16th ounce falls a foot a second. So if I see on my graph that brush pile started, let's say it started right here and that was 10 foot deep, I know that I need to cast over here and count to 10, and I'm probably right around the top of that brush. Okay. And then I'll cast here, count to 10 and make a retrieve. And then I'll cast here and make a retrieve, count to 10, make a retrieve until I find where the fish are. And then when I find the fish are, I say, okay, I casted 10 foot left of that buoy and I caught a fish. And I'm going to keep casting 10 foot left of that buoy. Now I may cast 12 foot, I may cast 8 foot, but I'm going to keep casting in that general area, okay, to catch fish. So that's the progression that I go through. Now, take it back on the flip side of things. Let's say the water temperature is 40. Oh, well, then that's a horse of a different color. Okay, so if water temperature is 40, then all of a sudden I'm looking deep. I'm going to find some deep structure. I want to find, now I may still fish the visible structure too. That may be my first step. I'll go fish the visible structure and see, especially marinas and any kind of floating dock, because a lot of time in the winter, if they have those black floats underneath them, those will actually heat up and release a little bit of heat into the water. Fish will get right up underneath those floats because it's a little warmer, and you can catch them there too. So, the visible structure is where I start, and then I go from there. Now, if I start catching fish out on brush, then I'll start looking for sparser stuff. I'll start looking for stumps, and I'll start looking for stick-ups, and I'll start looking. So it's just kind of a progression of breaking down that lake for that given season and the water temperature that you're presented with and the water clarity. So, if I'm sent to Texas and the reservoir is stained and I go north and it gets more stained and turns muddy because the inflow into the reservoir is muddy, then I may flip around and say, nope, and go back down and find that little bit of cleaner water that those fish are reacting in. Now, sometimes those fish they'll get up there in the mud, and they'll get shallower in the mud. Okay, muddy water fish generally stay shallower anyway because there's not as much light penetration in muddy water. Okay, there's more silt in the water. Obviously, that's why it's muddy. There's more silt in the water, so light doesn't penetrate as much. Okay, so you can find fish in shallower water. If the reservoir is, like you say, stained, and I would not hesitate to fish 3, 4, 6 foot of water, even if it's hot. I mean, even in the summer under docks, because that shaded water will stay cooler. And, 3-4 degrees cooler in the summer makes a big difference to the fish, because the cooler the water, the higher the oxygen content. Cold water holds oxygen better than hot water. We know this. And you can find those fish sometimes in that 3 or 4 degree different, in that water that's 3 or 4 degrees different in temperature, or that variance in temperature, because there's a little bit cooler water and there's a little bit more oxygen. Makes sense. Plus, docks are kind of their own ecosystem, right? I've said this before, docks are kind of their own little individual ecosystem, because you got algae that grows on the docks, then you got bait fish that eat the algae, and then you got big fish that eat the bait fish, and then you got bigger fish that eat the big fish, and then you got bigger fish, you know what I'm saying? So they're kind of their own little ecosystem right there on the lake for you guys to take advantage of, okay? So I hope that helps. That would be what I would do. Figure out your water temp, visible structure first. In Texas, there's probably standing timber. I would look at standing timber, docks, things that are visible first, and then go from there. Don't waste, if you're going for a trip and you're just wanting to go catch fish and have fun, don't waste your time trying to find hidden structures. Just go fish visible stuff. You can catch fish off visible structure, okay? Anywhere you can catch fish off visible structure. Now, you might not go catch every big fish in the lake, but you can catch fish, okay? That would be my advice. How much do you think it's going to upset the crappie bite by going from temperatures high 90s down to 70s? That's a good question. 90s to 70s is really not going to affect them that much. 70s to 40s and a water temperature drop that just, absolutely knocks them in the head, that will change some things. Obviously, that's a low pressure that's coming through, right? 90s to 70s is a low pressure, and we don't look at cold fronts the same way in the summer as we do in the winter, mostly because it's a metabolism thing. Okay, for me it is. When those fish are in 85-degree water, or 88-degree water, or 80-degree water, their metabolism is pretty high because it's hot. Okay, now they may be lethargic because they're stressed, right? Because there's not as much oxygen in the water. Just said this, not as much oxygen because it's higher temperature, but their metabolism is going. All right, so from temperatures, air temperatures, 90s to 70s, that lake is going to cool off, but let's cut it in the middle. Say it cools off to 80, okay? Or let's say it cools to 78, okay? Their metabolism, that fish's metabolism, is not going to change at that point. When you have a 50-degree lake and you get 20-degree temperatures for a week, and it drops from 50 to 32 or 34 or 36 degrees, then as that temperature gets into that range, their metabolism begins to slow down, okay? Those fish get cold enough that their metabolism begins to go into dormancy. So that is kind of what affects those fish more so than just pure temperature, okay? Obviously, the pressure is going to affect those fish. The pressure change from that high to that low temperature is going to affect those fish, but they're still going to feed, okay? There's not going to be a huge effect at those higher temperatures as there is into the 30s and 40s, okay? Actually, in my opinion, if it went from 90s to 70s, I'd be on the boat. I'd be fishing because those fish aren't going to be stressed any longer. Those fish are going to be more comfortable, more apt to feed, more apt to eat. Their metabolism's still kicking. They're ready. That's kind of that fall bite, right? That's kind of what it does in that fall bite. We're going from 90 to 70, and man, I'm ready. I'm ready. Evening bite is awesome. Yes, it is. Absolutely it is. In the summer, you can't beat an evening bite. Alex, where's those bonehead paddle tail baits, Matt? Well, I cannot speak to that question right now on the live. Okay. Within coming weeks, I'll be able to speak to that question, but right now I can't speak to that question. Crappie Reaper blades. Yep, Crappie Reaper makes a good bait. They make a good action tail bait. Do you change the size of your baits based on whether you are targeting black or white crappie? Very good question. Black crappie are typically finicky. Okay, they're typically more finicky than white crappie. A white crappie, if you put a bait in front of a white crappie, they're gonna hit. They're gonna eat it. I mean, they're pretty aggressive. Black crappie are not as aggressive as white crappie. So to answer your question, sometimes yes. Okay, sometimes I will go down to the little mini slim, which is a 1.75 inch bait. It's very small. That bonehead tackle mini slim, great little baits. Just a little straight tail bait. Great bait for black crappie. Okay. So to answer your question, sometimes I will downsize to black crappie because I feel like they react a little bit better to that smaller bait because a lot of times they're not as aggressive. Okay. Michael Ford, hey Matt, what's going on? Anthony Kent, hey Matt, I got here a little late. Did you get your water leak figured out? Very good question. So Margie's right over my shoulder here. Okay. We talked last week about going to Douglas and fishing for 4 hours and coming back and the boat being full of water. So I spent the better part of 4 or 5 hours fooling with the boat, and I filled the entire bilge up, the inside of the boat, put a water hose in the bilge and the bottom of the boat, filled the entire inside of the boat up, no leak. Filled both live wells up, ran both live wells on recirculate, no leak. Couldn't figure it out. For the life of me, couldn't figure it out. So, guide trips last weekend. Had two. Went out, fished the first one, fished the second one. Then I took my kids out Sunday and the wife. The wife got on the boat, guys. You're going to see a picture on Wired here in just a little bit. The wife got on the boat. Yes, she did. Very first crappie caught on the boat. Yes, she did. Little Wired caught his first crappie this last weekend. Pictures are to come on that. All right. Video is to come on that. So, didn't leak a drop. Did not leak a drop. Okay? So, we're going to call that operator error. Probably not screwing the drain plug in all the way. Is I guess the only thing I know is just didn't screw the drain plug in far enough and she leaked. So I don't know what else to tell you, but it didn't leak. So we're happy about it. I almost think that because the bottom of my bilge had some crud and stuff in it. And I'm wondering if it didn't, a little piece of something didn't get hung in between that gasket and the boat. And when I screwed the plug in, because I have one of those TH Marine screw-in plugs, you screw it in, unscrew it. It's got a little gasket on it. And I think maybe something got hung in the gasket. That's the only thing I can think of. So, but I didn't have a leak. I think it was operator error. So I was all worried about it for nothing. All right, moving on because I feel like an idiot. If I'm drifting with the wind, should I turn the scroll speed up faster than my speed to get a better side image? If I'm drifting with the wind, should I turn my scroll speed up faster than my speed? So, drifting with the wind, are you drifting perfectly straight, Eric? Because if you're not drifting straight, let's say you're drifting sideways, you're not going to get a good picture with side imaging. Side imaging, you have to be moving in a forward momentum in a forward direction to get, or straight reverse, rather straight reverse or forward, to actually get a good picture. So if you're just drifting with the wind and the wind's pushing you sideways, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to get a good picture. You've got to face directly forward to get good picture on side imaging. But to answer your question, side imaging, you really need to be in that certain kind of speed range, anywhere from 2 to 5 mile an hour. Typically on my boat is where I get my best picture, um, 2 to 5 mile an hour. And as far as scroll speed is concerned, I like a little bit slower scroll speed because it writes a better picture for you. The faster your scroll speed, the blurrier your image is going to be. Okay. So let's say there's a brush pile out to your right and your scroll speed's turned all the way up and you go by at 3 mile an hour, it may give you a blurry brush pile to where if your scroll speed was on medium and you went by there, and it's different with every unit. Some are high, medium, low. Some are 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Some, it's different with every unit. So some are ultra scroll and, depends on the unit that you have. But where was I? Sorry. A slower scroll speed is going to write a better picture for you than a fast one. Okay. So I like a little slower scroll speed. That's just me. And that's how I run my graphs. Okay. Good evening, Matt from Asheboro, North Carolina. I hope you and your family are doing well, my friend. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. We are doing well. Little Wired's a little sick, like I said earlier, but he's doing all right. He's getting better. Did you find your water leak in your boat, if any? Yep, no. I answered that one, Tom. Thank you for asking, though. I missed when you said when the crappie will leave brush piles. I'm in central Kentucky a few weeks ago. I was finding them 12 to 15 foot deep. Now I think they are moving deeper, maybe 20-foot. Thoughts. Dale, I don't know what the water temperatures are up there. You are in central Kentucky. I'd say you've probably had some cool weather last week then, right? Because we did. We had some cooler weather. So if you were finding them in that 12 to 15 foot deep range, do you know what your thermocline was? Another thing that's going to happen in the fall, guys, is you're going to get fall turnover. That's when that top layer of water, cool water is denser than hot water. Okay. So that surface layer, when it cools off, is going to drop. Okay. And then the warmer layers are going to move up above it. So what's going to happen is everything that's from the thermocline to the bottom, that's that nasty water, okay, that we talk about fish won't live in. It's kind of non-oxygenated, nasty, just dead water from the thermocline to the bottom of the lake right now. What's going to happen is when that top layer cools and it drops, it's going to pass that thermocline, it's going to go down, and it's going to push that thermocline, that nasty water up, okay, that kind of dead water. And then it's going to continue to just turn over. That's what your fall turnover is. You're going to have that water that turns over. It's not really turning over. It's cooling and dropping. And then that nasty water underneath that thermocline moves up. And then it cools and it moves down. And then the next layer cools and it moves down. The next layer cools, and so on and so forth. So you're going to get this fall transition or this fall pattern where you see those fish that will actually drop down in the water column because they're following that good water, getting out of that nasty water. All right. So you're going to see that some in the fall when you have that turnover. All right. A lot of people don't like fishing the turnover. Honestly, I don't like fishing the turnover, but you can still catch fish. Shallow water will turn over quicker than deep water. Simple math. There's less water there to turn over. Okay. So the shallower bays and things will turn over quicker and the fish will kind of flush into those areas. Bait fish will flush into those areas. Again, follow the bait because that's what the fish are going to do. So you can find those fish in that turnover period in that shallower water. Okay. You can kind of start looking there. And then you can also look a little deeper, like you're saying, Dale. You can look a little deeper than you were previously if you've had some turnover or if you've had a cooling. But if you had the same thing we had last week, I would actually, if you're finding them 12 to 15 foot deep, I would actually probably, because it hadn't really cooled off enough to really change that water composition yet as far as turnover. So I would probably even look a little shallower and see if you can't find those fish a little bit shallower, believe it or not. That's where I would begin to look is, if you had that little bit of cooling off. Water temperatures here went from the upper 80s down to the lower 80s. So you had like a 6-8 degree temperature drop. And I did find some fish last weekend that were shallower than they were the previous weekend. So, they're not going to move real far, Dale. I would think that you should be able to find them pretty close to the same areas that you were finding them. They just may have transitioned to a little bit different depth range. Thanks so much, Matt. You're welcome, buddy. Matt, yes, you said it correctly. It's a fisherman's town. Lots of laughs. I'm not even going to try that. Yeah, I will. No, I'm not. Susquehanna River. I'm going to good Lord, I'm going to butcher that to I'm going to butcher that one to the lake and back. We're going to leave that one alone. You're a very knowledgeable, experienced fisherman, Matt. Yeah, but I can't say that. Whatever that river is, I can't say that. So knowledgeable, I don't know. Illiterate, knowledgeable but illiterate. There you go. Knowledgeable, experienced fisherman, Matt. I really enjoy your videos. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. You can explain to me how to say that later. If you need help catching in Middle Tennessee, just call Joe Mash. Yeah, there you go. Just call Joe. Joe will tell you where they're at. The Hungry Fisherman, do you like to fish crappie condos? If so, what time of year would be best to fish them? Crappie condos? Are you talking about, when you say crappie condos, are you talking about like the crappie docks that they set up, that people set up, where you can go inside the dock and fish, like under an actual dock that's just enclosed? Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about just like brush piles, like the crappie condos that people sink? Anthony, lots of laughs. Operator error stinks, but it's better than a costly repair. Yeah, that's the truth. Curtis Hobbs, what's going on, Mr. Curtis? Taking grandson to Black Shoe tomorrow morning. He's home from the Marines. Hoorah! For a few days. Don't get no better. ACC rods, check. Bonehead lures, check. 164th, number 6 heads, check. Well, wear them out, Mr. Curtis. Let me know how y'all do. Rick Martin, good evening. Hello. Dale, thermocline 20 feet. Thanks. If the thermocline's 20 feet, I'd go a little deeper, Dale. I'd look in that 18 to 20 range. Now, with that being said, okay, 18 to 20 doesn't necessarily mean 18 to 20 foot of water. You may still be setting in 30 foot of water, but you need to find structure that comes up to that 18 to 20 feet. And they'll sit right on top of that structure, right above that thermocline a lot of times. And if you find thermocline, ow, I just pulled a neck muscle. Good night. You guys are starting to hurt me. So if you find brush that comes up above that thermocline, above that 20 feet, it may be 30 foot of water and the brush comes up to 10. It may be 25 foot of water and it comes up to 10. But if you find stuff that comes up above that thermocline, that's where your fish will be setting. And they'll be setting in that 18 to 20 foot range. They're going to be right there, 17 to 19, I would say, on that structure. Okay. That is where I would look. I've been catching crappies 9/16 from the bottom. 9/16 from the bottom here in Indiana at Summit Lake. 9/16. 9/16 from the bottom. Okay. All right. Right over this one of these shoulders. Hey, there it is. Guys, if you hadn't seen the new ACC Crappie Sticks line, you need to go check it out. Okay. They got a whole line of line. Yeah, no pun intended. A whole line of line. We say lineup of line that just came out. Okay, on their website, accrappiesticks.com. We've got 4-pound mono. We've got 6-pound mono, which is right here. 4-pound mono, 8-pound mono, 10-pound mono. You got 10-pound braid, 15-pound braid, and 20-pound braid. Okay, everything is. Let's just open one. Let's hang on a second. Let's hang on a minute. I'm going to have to get it with my teeth. I can't get in. I'm locked out. Open up. There we go. All right. So, line. This is your Smooth X braided fishing line. 10-pound test. Okay. Right there from ACC Crappie Sticks. It is high-vis. Okay. Everything is high-vis yellow. Albert, thank you very much, buddy, for the super chat. I appreciate it. It helps me and it helps this channel tremendously. Super chats are always a blessing to me, buddy, and I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, and this channel appreciates you. All right, so 10-pound, high-vis, ACC Crappie Sticks line, smooth, okay? This has got a coating on it that allows for smooth casting. It is a great line. My son had some out playing with it earlier. I don't know if you guys can see that. Very thin diameter, very resistant to abrasion, and casts very well. So I do like the braid. I'm a big fan. Of course, most everything I do anymore is braid. I do use some mono. I'll still use some of the 4-pound mono for shooting docks because I still like to fish with mono when I'm shooting docks. For the simple fact of it casts a little further, comes off the spool a little bit better. Mono does. But if you hadn't seen their new lines, check them out. Okay. Let's look at the 4-pound. This is the dual flex copolymer. This is mono. Okay. Oops, I tore my box. All right, this is the dual flex mono. Okay, it is a copolymer, and let's open it up. Now, the most important thing about a monofilament, okay? Again, high vis, mono. All right, that's 4-pound. The most important thing about spooling up a spool or a reel with mono, okay, is you have to make sure that you spool that reel with the line coming off here correctly. All right. Most every reel that I've seen, you need your line coming off the spool in a counterclockwise fashion. So you need to come off this way, okay? Counterclockwise. And I may be backwards to you guys. If I am, don't shoot me down when I'm preaching good again, because guess what? You're on my phone. You're looking off the front camera. So I may be backwards, and that may be spinning clockwise. But it's counterclockwise for most reels. All right? So you need to make sure when you spool your rod, you set this down flat in a fashion that will allow that mono to come off counterclockwise and onto your reel. Why is that? Because mono has memory. All right? Mono has memory. And if you go clockwise onto your reel, the memory that is already in this line from being on this round spool, okay, going onto your spool is going to be backwards from one another. So you're basically spooling this line and trying to 180 it to your reel, which is no bueno, okay? No bueno. Because what happens is you go out there and you make a cast and it goes, and all that line goes, and you go, what the crap? This stuff sucks. And you go, well, hold on now. Put the plug in your boat. Make sure you tighten that joker up, because you put it on wrong. You're trying to go against the grain. Make sure you're going with the grain. That's a tip for you guys tonight. Anytime you're spooling up mono, you need to make sure that it's coming off this spool in the correct manner. Most of the time it's counterclockwise, okay, for your reel. A good rule of thumb to know which way it needs to go is if you take your fishing rod and you turn it upside down and you crank your reel and you watch that spool which way it's going. If it upside down, if it's going counterclockwise, then you need to match it with how it comes off that spool of your line. It needs to go counterclockwise, okay? So, again, make sure you're spooling your mono correctly. It will help you. You will benefit from it. I promise. I promise. Okay. So check them out. Make sure you get yourself some of that line. Hey Matt, where did you find them on Douglas last week? About the same as I did. What? About the same as same as did? Huh? What? Um, Jackie, I fished. I fished a couple new areas that I'd never fished before. I found a lot of fish on structure. I did not find as many fish in open water. There were some fish in open water, but most of the fish that I found were on structure. And everything that I pretty much found was on real big bushy structure. There wasn't a whole lot of fish on just little sparse stuff. Everything that I found was just bunched up on trees mostly, real big bushy type trees. Okay. Is the coated braid as easy to see with forward facing? So yes, yes it is. Yeah. The nature of braid is there's there's air trapped in that line. Okay, this is the braid, and there's air trapped in that line, coated or non-coated. So even if they put a coating, I mean you can put your finger right here and rub your finger on this, and it's slick as could be. I mean, it's so smooth. I mean, it's just absolutely. Braid. A lot of times, if you take braid and on a spool and you rub it like this, you can feel like bump, 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 bump. It's real bumpy because you can actually feel the braid. You can feel like a girl's hair that's braided. This is braided in very similar fashion, and you can feel that a lot of times. That's why braid sings to you when you reel it on your rod. You can hear it, right? Everybody loves that sound of, when you set the hook and you're reeling. Um, this is very smooth, very very smooth. Which I'm interested to put this out on the boat in the water catching fish because I want to see how long that smoothness holds up and if when it starts to, because braid fades, right? We put braid in the lake, it starts fading on us, and that's when it gets really good. That's when I really like braid, is when it starts fading, because it gets limp, it gets a little bit limper, it gets a lot easier to cast. It doesn't sing to you as much. It just kind of gets a little wear and tear on it. Some things are better broken in, and I love breaking in braid and fishing with it when it's broke in because it's a little better. Um, but I'm interested to see if that smoothness, that slickness holds up. We'll put that to the test. I'll let you guys know. But right now, it feels absolutely great. It feels wonderful. I'm ready to get it out on the lake. So, yes, to answer your question, you will be able to see it as well on forward facing sonar, because even if they took it and they coated it, it trapped air in that. That's what you're seeing on your forward facing sonar. You're not seeing the fishing line, Rick. I hope you know that. You are not seeing the fishing line. You're seeing the air that's trapped in the weave of the braid. So braid floats, right? We know that. Braid floats, mono sinks. That's the nature of the line. Why does braid float? Because braided line traps air in the pores or the pockets of that fishing line, and you're actually seeing the air that's trapped on that fishing line on your forward facing sonar. You're not seeing the actual line, you're seeing the air on the line. Have you ever seen somebody fishing with braid? They'll be reeling, you'll see it on their screen, you'll see the braid line, and when they set the hook, you see bubbles come up off the line. You guys ever seen that? I think I have a couple videos that have that in it. You set the hook and you see air come up, and it's like, well, what happened? That's the air on that line that's releasing off that line, and it's floating up out of or up through the water column. So again, you're not seeing the line, you're seeing the air, and yes, you will see it on this as well. Okay. Just man-made fish structure. The DNR makes a bunch up and sinks them in the lake. Just added 60 waypoints with them. Going out next week and fishing some of the crappie are structure-oriented fish. They want to be around some type of structure. I fish structure year round. I mean, and structure can be a lot of different things. It can be a rock. It can be a stump. It can be a cable off a dock. I mean, there's cables off a dock up here that, they have the cables for the docks that go up and down the bank with the lake. When the lake fluctuates, it may go up the lake, and then they'll drop the lake, and the dock will come down the lake. And there's cables. It rides on cables. Those cables, a lot of times, they're anchored in the bottom of the lake, and you can look at a cable and you can see fish sitting on a cable, and you can cast to it. That's a structure. Okay, fish, crappie are structure oriented. There's a lot of fish that are structure oriented, but crappie specifically are structure oriented fish, and they're going to be on types of structure year round, different types of structure, but they're going to be, and a lot of times, like I was saying earlier, that thick, bushy stuff, there's big trees that are real thick. A lot of times you'll find smaller fish. You'll find more fish. You may find 100 small fish on a tree that's sunk in the lake, but you may find 3 big fish on a stump that's out on the main river. You may find 150 sitting under a dock. You may find one that's sitting on a little stick up, no bigger than my thumb, sitting in the back of a creek. It's just, again, structure can be many different things. It's got many different faces, if you will. And you can fish a lot of different stuff and catch crappie. But crappie are structure-oriented fish. They're going to be on structure pretty much year-round to some extent. Okay, so to answer your question about do I fish structure, yes, and I fish it year-round. It really just depends on kind of what I'm doing. Now, if I've got a guide trip and I'm taking people out, I'm going to fish the stuff that's got a lot of fish on it because they're paying me to catch fish. They don't want to go, well, there's one, and then 20 minutes later, well, there's one, and then 20 minutes later, well, there's one. And they're like, good Lord, we're going to catch a fish every 20 minutes, which some that's good. Some hey, we're going to go catch fish every 20 minutes. They're happy with that. They're like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go. And then some people are like, nah, I want to go catch 20 fish in 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, I can do that too. So, again, it's different, for different means of fishing. Okay. For me. If you're not sure how your line got spooled, put your spool in the freezer for a couple hours. Oh, yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. Freeze it. Yeah, you hear all these different things. Put it in the freezer. Put it in under hot water. Put it this. Put it that. I'm here to tell you, memory is a witch. Memory is no good. And for years and years and years, we've always tried to figure out a way to combat memory. Go with the flow. That's what you need to do. Go with the memory that the line's already got in it, and make sure you spool it right. And mono's cheap enough. If you didn't spool it right, go with it. Pull it off, redo it, and roll with it. This is not very expensive. Oh, how long of a leader fluorocarbon do you usually use connected to the braid? So for me, I use a leader when I'm fishing tournaments, but I don't use a leader. Say I'm out there fishing with my kids or my wife or, a guide trip. I typically don't use a leader. Okay. Reason being is because I want to be able to pull a jig out of a brush pile when they get hung. So I don't use a leader, and I actually don't see much difference either. I've done both, and there'll be some days where you swear up and down a leader helped, and there's some days where it doesn't matter if you put a jig in front of a fish that's eating it. It doesn't really matter. So again, I do use a leader. When I use a leader, I like a 6 to 10 foot leader. The reason I go that long is because, one, I want to be able to hopefully break it off a time or two before I have to retie a whole leader on. But I've went with as small as a 3 foot leader, or I've went with a 12-inch leader before. Again, I don't know that it makes a huge difference for me. Is that an 8-strand braid? Absolutely, yes. That is right there, Joel. So ultra smooth 8-strand braid. Okay. You can't see this. It says strand right there. This is 8 times strand. Okay. So it's an 8-strand braid. Yes. And it is smooth. Super smooth. Matt, do you put a leader on your braid? I wonder if the fish see the line. I don't think they do. Personally, no. Get in late, but we'll rewatch. Robbinsville, North Carolina. What's up, Joel? what are you doing over here, Joel? Passing out? Well, Jimmy's starting to be a believer in the limeades. Yeah, limeades, Jimmy. Way to go. Talk to text. Leader. I know what you meant, buddy. Um, yeah, I'm not so much a believer in the leader. Again, I've I've just had so many days where it just, for me, it's not a big deal. Uh, Again, when I'm tournament fishing, I always tie a leader, mostly because, hey, if it makes that one fish difference, then it's one fish difference. But uh, catch plenty of fish straight braid. I haven't seen a whole lot of fish that have been scared off from line. Okay, uh, if crappie were line sensitive, you would think reeling a jig through a school of 100 of them, they'd be darting every direction that they could. And a lot of times with braided line, you can feel your line rubbing up against fish. Like literally feel your line rubbing fish, and you're like, I'm sitting here rubbing fish, and they're not biting. And then you catch one, and then you catch another, and then you catch another, and it's like, there's so many fish down there. I'm literally rubbing up against them. Um, but and that's the beauty of braid, right? Because you can feel everything. I mean, if a fish farts and it's within 2 feet of that braided line, you're going to feel it. So um, that's another reason that a lot of guys have went to braid. We talked about that on a live a couple of weeks ago. Is just the pure sensitivity and the durability of it. A lot of guys have went to braid, especially because we continue to fish deeper and deeper. And braided line has so much feel, so much sensitivity. You can feel it depth. And when you cast out 50 feet in front of you and you're fishing 40 feet deep and you got 90 foot of line in between you and a fish, it's nice to be able to feel that fish bite at that distance. So a lot of guys have switched over to braid, but um, yeah, it's some good stuff, and I'm looking forward to getting it on my spools and getting it out there and working with it and seeing how it performs. So, like I said, I have some of the prototype stuff. I've been using their line for a while now with the prototypes that they sent out to all the pro staff. And, we gave them a lot of feedback and they changed a lot of things before it came out for you guys. So the braid changed slightly from actually what I had, and the mono actually changed slightly as well. They made some changes on both based on pro staff comments and what we were seeing. A lot of us talked and we were seeing a lot of different things, or a lot of the same things um, in different areas with different lines, different pound tests and things of that nature that we were seeing different stuff with. And it's really cool to have a group of anglers that are testing and doing different things and able to say, hey, this is what I saw. And you say, yeah, I saw that here, and you're like, this is what it did to me, and this is what happened, and this is what. And it's really cool to know that what came out that you guys get to enjoy has been perfected. It really has. We used some 4-strand, we used some 6-strand, and then we landed on 8-strand. It's amazing to me the difference in the strands and the feel of those strands. So the higher the strands, and I know why Joel was asking, because the more strands you have, the smoother that braid is. It's not as rough, and it casts better. It comes through your guides better. It's just smoother in general because you have more strands and everything's woven a little tighter together. Okay, so it's pretty cool stuff, and I was happy to be a part of it. All right, we've gotten to the bottom of our screen here. we're going to let it go for tonight. We've been on a little over an hour. Try to keep them to 45 minutes to an hour and 15 or something. But holds a little more air, in my opinion. Yeah, yeah, possibly. All right. So, like I said, we're going to call it. I appreciate you guys. As always, God bless. And I hope you guys have a great week. We will catch you guys next week, same time, same place, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. So if you're central or if you're way out on the other side, make sure you're here at the right time. Okay. But 9 p.m. Eastern. And like I said, guys, thank y'all for all y'all do, everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching the lives. Thank you for everything. Couldn't do it without you. And we'll catch you on the next one. All right. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you.